Welcome to the Manhattan Project, where we run drugs.
We're gun runners, Evan.
Let's go run some guns.
Although it felt like we saw War Dogs tonight, we didn't actually see War Dogs.
No, we saw Doug Liman's new movie. You know, the guy that directed The Bourne Identity and last year's Edge of Tomorrow that didn't come out last year. It came out like... Whatever. He stars Tom Cruise as a not time-traveling guy who was a pilot in the 1980s running drugs, guns, and people back and forth between, like, Nicaragua and America amongst some other countries that were like jungle-esque that had Latin American people. Colombia.
Mostly one other country. We stopped in Panama too, that's information.
Take a look at the trailer though.
Wait, take us going to see it.
Yeah, take a look at us going to see it. All right, walking to Williamsburg Cinemas and popped over to Duane Reade to try to get some candy for the movie, as we sometimes
those
do.
Halloween sales already started.
No, but that's the problem, right? Because they only have Halloween candy, which are all huge bags. Which are like,
big bags.
You can't put them in your pocket. So this is the move right now. Let's see if this works.
I'm just gonna walk in with it, basically.
Yeah, we tried to sneak it under my shirt, but it looked a little bit too like a bomb. Well, what happened next, Evan? Did we wind up sneaking it in my shirt, or did we wind up sneaking it just like you holding it, like not giving a fuck?
I was arrested. So I figured that if I put half the candy in my pocket, where it was fairly inconspicuous, and then just had the other candy in the bag still, but just like in a much smaller package, and just put it under my arm and be inconspicuous.
Although it was the bigger of the two.
It was.
Because it wouldn't fit in your pocket. Yeah.
Still, it was pretty small. I would never think anyone would say anything about it. We go up. We're all ready, we're sweating bullets, and there is...
Not even a ticket ripper. They're just in the bathroom or something. So, like, we didn't even have to buy tickets when you think about it. Like,
yeah,
we just walked right in. But it's not over there, kids.
No.
So we're munching in the middle of the movie, and Evan decides to perch the two bags of candy. We had one bag of Kit Kats, one bag of Reese's, on, like, the armrest between the two of us. Like, boom and boom.
Pretty wide armrest. We can
both grab it. And then around 30 minutes into the movie, my elbow does... this by accident, and our fucking huge bag of Reese's, or the Kit Kats actually, just goes like somewhere at the feet of the people sitting behind us. It was mortifying, and I was like, Evan, like it's gone, and Evan's like,
someone stole them? Because I pointed at people first, and then I looked down and saw that there was no candy. So in that order of mind events, people no candy means stolen.
But can you imagine the balls on someone to steal candy from someone else in the middle of a movie, like pretty early on into the film?
It wasn't stolen.
You can take a look at the trailer, though, for the movie that we did see.
CIA ain't Pablo Escobar. I made a fortune working for them boys. No más, no más.
American made.
John, what were your expectations for this movie?
So broadly, my expectations about a year ago when I found out this was being made was that it's about, like, someone who cleans houses for a living, because I thought it was American MAID. However, recently, having seen the trailer, I knew it was going to be about Tom Cruise being a pilot, and I thought the trailer was really solid, and Doug Liman is a nice director. They're really talented. He made a lot of tight movies that are at least brisk and entertaining, if not, like, game-changing. So I thought this movie would be brisk and entertaining at best, if not game-changing. That was my expectation.
American Made overcomes some messy direction and poor choices regarding its protagonist because it supplies a number of surprisingly absurd moments in the middle of its mainly just kind of like fun drug-running caper that is predictable, but basically exactly what the trailer sells.
Yeah, this movie would probably be really, really solid if it came out in the 90s or the early 2000s. It'd be like a classic blockbuster flick. Like, if you rented it, you'd be really satisfied with it. Like, real entertaining film. You know, some smart direction and some good jokes. But coming out now, seeing it in Donald Trump's America, which makes some of the satire more relevant, and also seeing, like,
more relevant.
And seeing old Tom Cruise having, like, done this sort of shtick a lot for, like, 30 years now almost. It's not as effective, in my opinion. As much as the political commentary is more relevant, right? Talking about, like, the idea of what America is to everyone and, like, capitalism versus communism and sort of, like, what the American ideal is and, like, what evil is and presidents being harsh against crime, all sorts of stuff like that. It's pretty topical here. And yet, just, like, the entertainment value of what you're watching on screen, you can't deny that it lacks a little bit of luster, feeling like how is this coming out in 2017? This is such, like, an old-school movie, and it's a little bit of an old dog doing old tricks. But the tricks mostly work. It's a good movie. Don't get me wrong. I think it's more good than bad.
As far as the good stuff, there was about 3 or 4 moments in this movie that it really felt like the filmmakers who've been striving to hit a certain tone, like, really achieved it. Mm-hmm. There's a moment where Tom Cruise is in a situation where it's surrounded by gunfire and everyone's reacting not the way you'd expect, and he, as the audience vessel, is like, what's going on? How should I feel? And that was a moment where I was like, okay, this movie, it has a voice separate from just being like a crazy story movie. And like I said, it goes there a couple times. If it had gone there like once, twice more, then that would take it up a notch. It doesn't. But the fact that it's able to do that is still good.
And also that scene that you're talking about is a good example of just like what this movie does right, if it does anything really right, is that it has a lot of scenes that like work effectively as being individually tense. Okay? So like there's not a ton of tension that's carried out throughout the runtime, but there are a ton of sequences here, whether it's him dealing with like Pablo Escobar and the Cartel, or him dealing with the DEA, like flying in the air, or him dealing with the FBI or the DEA or the CIA or the district attorney or any of those people on the ground because they're all trying to get him. There's a lot of individual tension in a lot of these sequences and scenes, and Doug Liman directs it pretty well, and Tom Cruise acts it pretty well as well. It's all very effective. Except for the fact that you're watching him record like a deposition the entire movie, and you know he's telling you the story later. So anytime his life is threatened, that kind of deflates the tension. And like I said, these scenes all work individually, but they don't ever lead up to like a broader fear or through line of suspense that the movie can keep up for 2 hours, because you don't particularly care about this guy, nor do you particularly care about his long-term goals, who he's looking out for, why he's doing all this stuff, or exactly even what's going on in the operation at certain times, because he gets caught up in doing so much big shit, and all of a sudden he has this huge empire with all these fake businesses and stuff, and I was like, wow, 20 minutes ago I was watching a guy very linearly learn about these crazy things with us,
just
the audience.
Take off a plane.
Just like one at a time. Like, it was a lot of goal-oriented stuff where you're like, oh, I'm with Tom Cruise. Now he's meeting this guy. Oh, that's scary. What are we going to learn? And then it's like, cut to later, and there's like so much stuff happening. So I don't think it really holds tension for a long enough time throughout the runtime. But like I said, it is effective in those individual scenes, for sure.
I think it really comes down to editing. The in-scene editing is good. The larger structure. You get the feeling that they filmed a lot in this movie. And then they selected the vignettes they wanted. They smushed some stuff into montage. Other stuff they kept intact. That's why you get subplots that sometimes are wrapped up in a really linear way, where they don't actually extend for the whole movie, and other subplots do maintain themselves over the whole movie.
Also, and while subtlety is not really the name of the game with this movie, it's never really trying to be subtle, that does lead to a couple of kind of eye-rolling moments. Like, for example, there's a scene where he's thinking about the stakes about doing a really dangerous thing that he kind of is forced to do, and so he's thinking about his family, but like for some reason his family is like literally all sitting in a car right by the runway, which they've never done before and should not be doing in that instance. Weird. And it's like, all right, guys, like, you have a little bit of faith in your audience to understand the character, because if you want me to care about him, this shit ain't working.
Well, Charlie Sheen wasn't in this movie. Domhnall Gleeson was in this movie.
Yeah, we should talk about how he's a delight, and every movie he's in, he elevates to the nth degree. One of the best actors working of his class, of like people in their 20s that like just pull off so many roles. And I thought in this movie he was great too. He's like a kind of Weasley, but also kind of intimidating at times. He does a really good job of like changing context depending on who he's talking to as like a CIA agent. And it really worked for me. It's probably my favorite part.
As far as the movie's like specific satire of the CIA and of American like shadow politics, like what's below the surface, his character gets set up for one of the funnier jokes like at the movie's end, where you hear like the continued history of like what happened to everyone involved, which was also pretty good too. That just it fits the movie's sort of general black comedy. What happened to him? I also remember what I was going to say. Not terribly relevant. But Tom Cruise in this movie was paired up with a much younger star, which is a little eye-rolly. But the even younger star, who he was dating as a result of this movie, is Lola Kirk, who's in this movie for like 2 scenes.
Yeah,
two randomly. Shots of her.
And it really implies that she's going to like she's married to this sheriff. Or this local police officer, and it's like, oh, she's seeing the shady stuff happening. Like, she's going to bust this case open and convince this buffoonish police officer that she's married to or dating or whatever what's going on. And no, it's just one of those classic, like, stranger than fiction moments that I guess must have happened in real life, where just like it's a total coincidence why that sheriff becomes relevant in the story at all.
I was just going to say that feels like more proof that they shot more than they used, because the movie was originally called Mena, the name of the town where the guy is sheriff, and was changed to American Made. So Tom Cruise doesn't have a scene with this actress. Potentially they had a scene together, and that's why Tom
also
Cruise
produced the film, so.
Yeah, I don't know. Just sort of a fun factoid thing. I think we're almost done talking about this movie. So it's at the end part.
Here's what I'll say at the end. There's a couple of reasons why people might not be interested from a political standpoint of seeing this film. A, it's Tom Cruise, and just the more we learn about Tom Cruise's personal life, his religion, and his relationships, the more he seems like the kind of guy we really shouldn't be handing our money over to. And B, we know 2 stunt people died on the set of this film because of unsafe work conditions that were potentially perpetrated by Tom Cruise and director Doug Liman just trying to get cool shots and not caring enough about on-set safety. So if you're worried about giving your money to this movie because you had like a moral quandary about seeing it, even though, you know, it might be fun or whatever, it's not good enough. I wouldn't say it's unavoidable enough that you should like fucking abandon your morals. I think if you don't feel that this movie deserves your money for a political reason, you're probably right. Like I can't disagree with that. We paid to see it through MoviePass, so we didn't give our own personal money to it. But overall, if you strip all that stuff away, you have a mildly entertaining end of September movie that you'll probably forget about in 2 weeks if you do see it. But if you choose not to, that's totally chill. That's my review.
American Made is like my experience with those Kit Kats. I enjoyed eating them, but then when they fell, I actually wasn't even that sad that they were gone. Same way that, like John said, I'll forget about this movie. I enjoyed it, but it's not going to be anywhere in my mind after tomorrow even.
Thanks so much for watching. We review movies, lots of movies. So subscribe if you like people that review movies.